Then pulled right over. And he walks up to the window. I've already got all my info in my hand.
Oh, like you should.
I'm literally just handing it out the window. Like when he pulls up, my hand's out the window with all the stuff. And he starts laughing.
Wow.
And he goes, well, I guess I'm not going to have that speech with you about what you did wrong, right? And I said, no, sir. I believe I was going, 78? He goes, yes, that's exactly how fast you were going. And I started laughing. I'm like, look, you got to do your job. I was in the wrong. There's no point in belaboring this.
And he's like, oh, that was just a shadow, man. You can go.
So then,
can go.
I squeezed my chest together and pulled my shirt down to show some cleavage.
His milkshake brings other boys to the yard. They're like, it's better than yours.
But it was funny because I just told him, I was like, look, I was looking at my GPS. I'm on my way to a meeting from Tampa. I'm running a little late. I didn't realize how fast I was going. It's easy to go fast in this car. Anyway, I got a warning, so it worked out.
Wow, you got a warning from a trooper.
I still haven't gotten it. Well, the beach helped, Andy. The beach did help. But, I got out of the ticket. I mean, we had a bet, right? We were talking about it'd probably take like 2-3 months for me to get a ticket. So.
It's funny you say that. And to your point, I think the act of knowing what you did, having everything prepared, makes a huge difference. And I'm a huge proponent of if you get pulled over, just be as nice as you can and be respectful. If you got caught doing something wrong, own up to it. And that happened to me one night. We were out celebrating somebody's birthday. I think it was Toby's at Tadpoles. And I'd been there.
Who just had a birthday Wednesday.
Yeah.
The great Toby.
It was a year ago then. And I was at Tadpoles, and I had about a beer an hour. So
that was your first mistake right there, is that you were at Tadpoles.
Yeah. Well, I had about a beer an hour, so I was in the normal, somewhat safe capacity.
Bullshit.
No, actually, I
I
hadn't drank that much actually, and I was on the way home. Now Stephanie was with me; she was drunk, and I'm cruising down Highway 60, and I see off to the side in a parking lot a white unmarked sheriff's car just pulls forward out of nowhere, and I said, "Oh crap!" Because I just passed a car in another lane, and he pulls out behind me. I look over at Stephanie. I said, I'm getting pulled over. Shit, I'm getting pulled over. And she's like, no, you're not. And I'm like, I'm getting pulled over. Shut up. Stop talking. I'm getting pulled over. And she goes, no, you're not. And sure enough, lights came on behind me. So I pull off. I pull way off the road, pull into a parking lot, very safe area.
Make it easy for him.
Oh, yeah. He pulls up. I have everything ready for him. And he says, sir, do you know how fast you were going back there? And I said, yes, sir. I probably was doing about 60 or so when I run around that car. And he goes,
but you were on State Road 60.
Yeah.
You weren't really speeding. Well, you were going about 10 over.
10
I was
over,
going about 10
it's
over.
usually
So
50 to 55 max, and you'll find the 55.
Well, it actually changes to 55 there.
Yeah.
So-
Depends how far east you're
Yeah.
going.
So and he said I said I was probably doing probably close to 60, and he goes, I got you at 62. I said that sounds about right, sir. And he turns around and he goes, hang tight for me. He starts heading back towards his car. I don't think he even makes it back to the car and comes back up. He says, you still live right around the corner here? I said, yes, sir, I do. And he goes, do me a favor, slow it down, have a good night. And I think it goes just to the fact of own up to it.
If you make it easy,
if you make it easy and they don't have to feel like they have to reprimand you. He didn't even give me a warning. He just said, just take care. Have a nice day. Slow down. Now,
safe.
being an unmarked car, I think he was looking for DUIs.
Sure.
And when I pulled over and I was completely coherent and I explained exactly what I had done, and I think he just said, yeah, get out of here.
I mean, at the end of the day, these guys are out there. They're trying to do their job. They're dealing with a large element of danger.
Oh, and especially in this day and age with everything going on with law enforcement, those guys,
Right.
I have a lot of friends in law enforcement, and they get such a bad rap so many times, and the only thing you can do really if you really want to help yourself out is just be respectful and do what you're asked, and more times than not you're gonna get
Unless
on the wrist.
Unless your name is Anakin Skywalker.
Oh.
And then you're not going to be respectful to the cops. Okay, remember that little douchebag kid on the Phantom Menace, which was
so Annie be stupid as Jar Jar Binks me, Annie.
definitely the worst Star Wars movie ever made. The Phantom Menace, which was just atrocious. That kid, Jake Lloyd, incredibly annoying. Well, now he's 26 years old. And apparently he led cops in Colleton County on a high-speed chase over the last weekend. He actually gave his name as Jake Broadbent, but it is, in fact, Jake Lloyd, according to actors anyway. He had hit speeds over 100 miles an hour. He failed to stop for officers and then was charged with reckless driving. So apparently this chase lasted for like 25 miles off of Interstate 95. He plowed through a fence. He continued speeding along a parallel frontage road. The road ended at a dead end. And then the vehicle kept going into a wooded area before it hit several small trees and stopped.
Oh, wow.
Oh, well, you were pointing at something. I'm done. So go ahead.
That's crazy. I mean, how fast was he going, did they say?
They said 100 miles an hour.
100 miles an hour on 95? Who doesn't do 100 on an interstate?
Just break the fourth wall for crying out loud.
I didn't want to interrupt your guys' good banter.
What are you asking for, a cigar? Is that
Yeah,
what-
I want a cigar. I'd like a Tura Fuente short
You know, we have a
story.
commercial break coming up in like 2 stories.
I
You
want to
coulda
light
waited
it and
for
share
I
it
mean,
with the gang.
You know,
Oh,
whatever.
Andy heard that you wanted a cigar, so he's ready. He's giving you something to smoke.
Well, see, something that would have helped here is if the Lions Den had this new technology that Land Rover and Jaguar are working with, and it's a technology they use to measure your brain waves through the steering wheel.
What?
Yeah,
I bet you.
It's actually NASA technology, and they're using it to sense if you're being distracted or if you're falling asleep and things like that, and then can do things to alert you to wake you up. And
But wait, how the hell is Jag going to measure your brain? I mean, is there something that is there some kind of device that you put on your head while you're driving so it can measure your brain waves? I mean, how are they actually measuring them? Does it say?
No. I don't know. I haven't got that far.
Seriously, that's a little scary.
It's I think it does it through the steering wheel.
You know, if I was driving a Jaguar that could measure my brain waves, then they would know that I'm always horny or hungry. It would be one of the two. Well, and drunk, allegedly.
It would be like, do you remember when the iPhone first came out with Siri, and you could tell it you were horny, and it would actually look for escort services
I
in
didn't
the
know
area?
that. I
You
didn't know
that?
Siri did that. I would have bought an iPhone way back in the day instead of a Galaxy.
Yeah, it was when Siri first came out. You could tell it. You could say, you could hold the button down, and it would ask what you could say, "I'm horny," and it would say, it would literally find you the closest escort services in your area.
Wow, Siri's
So-
really gone downhill.
That's
since
what I'm
then.
talking about.
Yeah.
Well, you know, while we're talking about innovation, I'm going to skip the Brazil story, but this other one is brilliant, just so we can stay on time here. But, you know, remember the old saying, where we're going, we don't need roads? What movie was that?
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, man.
No, that was Back to the Future.
Back
buddy.
to the jumping gigawatts, Marty.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
We don't need roads. We need bananas and garbage.
Well, that's true. Or plutonium. But anyway,
And a flux
there's,
capacitor.
there's a woman that
Great Scott, Marty.
a woman placed a classified advertisement to test out her time machine. She was in search of a companion. Now, this woman, only known as Anna from Exminster in England, which is spelled EXMINSTERCHOUSTERSHIRE.
Yes.
Because in England, every town ends with Schustershire and it's silent.
Bless you.
She posted an advert on Gumtree asking for someone to join
Gumtree.
her in trying out her homemade device. So she's brilliant enough to make a time machine. It might be
H-O-E or H-O.
but she apparently can't find a companion. Now, she says she was overwhelmed by the amount of people that wanted to take part, and now she has chosen her Marty McFly, and they were supposed to attempt the journey today. She did reveal, and she's quoted as saying, "I've been overwhelmed by the number of replies to my ad for a time travel companion on Gumtree."
Did you say overwhelmed?
Overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed?
After sifting through thousands of replies, I am pleased to say that I have found a suitable candidate. We will be making our maiden voyage this Friday night at around 1900. Wish us luck. And this is going to be streamed over the internet, her time machine.
Thank God, man. Finally, somebody's invented a time machine we can actually utilize while getting our knobs straightened out.
Is that website, does that happen to be Chatterbait?
Where they stream the time machine?
Oh, chatterbait.com, folks. That's the site everybody needs to check
That's
out.
the site that needs to give us some frickin' sponsorship.
I agree.
And
I agree.
we're going to hashtag that on Twitter during the break, of course.
That would probably explain why my Skype got hacked. All this talking about
Yeah, but we'd have to use your Skype on Chatterbait, which we don't. I'd use
How do
my
I know?
Skype.
You have my login and you're on there all the time.
I would use my Skype.
It sounds
on
like you might
Chatterbait.
have accidentally used mine, considering the device that my profile picture was employed with.
Oh, yeah.
So, if you guys had a time machine, what would be the first thing you used it for?
Ooh, that's a good question, dude. That is a really good question.
That is a good question. I've always kind of thought of that. You don't want to go and change too much.
Now, would you use it for purpose? Would you be a good Samaritan with the time machine? Would you use it for noble reasons,
No.
or would you be like me and use it for completely douchey reasons?
Well,
Well, I've thought about it. They say the butterfly effect or things like that. You can't change it. I think if I had it, I would just like to go back in time to different eras and observe and just actually live in and take part of certain things, not necessarily change anything. Everybody wants to say, "Oh yeah, I'd go back."
Yeah, you would. You'd change shit. You would. You absolutely would. And then we'd have the butterfly effect. It would absolutely happen. But look, speaking of going back in time, let's talk about a legendary Marine whose birthday was today, and then we'll get back to this time machine.
Okay, who's the Marine?
Maiden
Go ahead.
voyage.
Who?
One of the most important Marines in modern history, Chesty Puller. Here's the Chesty Puller.
I wish you would have told me this. We could have done a badass of the week for him.
Oh yeah, he is a real badass of the week. So
Chesty Puller.
Chesty
Good
Puller.
on you, Chesty Puller.
Now, okay, so let's go back to the time machine thing. We're running a little late, but it's so worth it. Okay, so we all agree. I think we're all in agreement. All of us here are all in agreement that a time machine would be used for douchey reasons, right? Yes. We're not going to do anything noble, right? We're going to bang chicks and make money, right?
Yep.
I would go back to
Okay.
the 20s and bang chicks.
You go back to the 20s? Why? Because there's not
I
AIDS
love
back
them.
then?
No.
Or?
You like the
I
flappers?
love the flapper chicks. I can't lie.
You could just buy Sherry an outfit and just be done with it.
Oh, flapper.
That's a lot easier than building a time machine. If you're going to go through all that work, go back and invest in Google or
Dude,
Apple or
on
some
Pornhub, there's tons of flapper chicks. Oh, wait.
Shut
no, that's
up.
just the way
they're fapper chicks.
No, it's just the way
No, they're flappy chicks.
Yeah, it's just the way it looks after all the mileage. Yeah. Now, see, okay, if I had a time machine, I'm definitely going to use it for sports gambling. You can make
What
a
are you, Marty
fortune.
McFly now in freaking Back to the Future 2?
Don't
gamble on sports,
No, it's like Biff, but at the end of the day, you're
Yeah.
going to use it for that. Why wouldn't you? Yeah, did they
No,
give me
no,
the
no,
idea?
no, no,
But
no,
that's
no.
a brilliant idea.
That's
Ben-
a lot
Ben,
of work.
Ben, I'm with you, but I think I would probably use it more in the stock market, like you said, invest in Google or something
Yeah.
like that.
No,
Probably-
Xerox.
You're not going to make as much money in
go
the
back
sports
to
betting as you
Xerox.
are
Actually,
in the
let
stock
me tell you what I
market.
would have bought.
Everyone's got a printer.
If I had a fucking time machine.
Oh,
let me
here we go
yeah.
again.
Let me tell you what I
Jesus.
would have bought.
Tap
I think
dancing
it was
Christ.
2004 when 2004 when Sears, when everyone thought Kmart was going under and the whole Kmart and Sears thing, and then they thought Sears was
yeah.
going under. And the stock went down to like 85 cents a share. And then everyone figured out that that Kmart actually owned all their properties, and they were like free and clear of everything, and it shot up to from 85 cents to like I think it went like to $115
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
share.
Share per
something
share,
like
yep.
that. That's what I would have done. Stuff like that.
The company I worked for prior to my current day job was Sleep Number, the Sleep Number beds, and obviously working there in sales.
Yeah,
Making
you were on
commission.
the radio.
I was actually, yes, I was.
It's Andy's nickname, Mr. Sleep Number.
What's your number?
Which number does he feel like dialing in tonight?
But at one point, when I was working there, our stocks in 2008 got down to 15 cents a share. And wishing back then I would have had the money to buy, but working in sales,
He didn't have those 15 cents to buy.
No.
a share.
Well, no.
I'm
It was
kidding,
it was
kidding.
it was the unknown factor of am I going to have a job tomorrow? So I don't really have any money to spend. But there were people in the corporate office who weren't as disposable, I guess, and became millionaires because they just bought. And I did the math the other day, and I think it was 19 cents a share when I started doing the math. So I did the math on that. $1,000 in 2008 on 19 cents a share would be worth $185,000.
For those of
today.
you in Europe, it's 19 cents a share. There you go. Just so you
19 cents a share,
19
mate.
cents a share.
So
Well, guys, we're
Yeah.
going to jump into a quick commercial break. We got to stay somewhat on time here. When we get back, some NHL draft talk to get into. A lot going on here in the background here at the Lions Den, the great establishment of Brian Lyon.
What's
here
the
in Ybor
address here,
City.
Brian?
1704 and a half.
Literally a half.
Because we're upstairs.
That's
East 7th Avenue, Ybor City, 33605.
Be careful with the stairs. I've fallen down them before, though I don't remember.
Right across from the
Hey,
SunTrust
and-
building.
and
And we do have
folks-
an elevator.
Folks, call in. Say hi to us at
813-438-6068. We'll be right back
Gravel.
after this.
Hello, I am Dr. Ira Goldman, 3-star board-certified rated plastic surgeon taking over for the newly retired Dr. Raji. I will continue his legacy of excellence. It is now my turn to share an important message with the growing number of older men out there. Have you ever felt an excruciating pain in your stomach? Do you believe you have a hernia only to find out you're sitting on your testicles? Have you developed